What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the open greatly with a double buffed Ice Glass Cannon backline with Shadow Mamoswine and a level 50 Smoochum. Now initially I wanted to run a triple ice team with Hex, Shadow, Frost Sass, but I did 4 battles and faced either a Galissapod or a Talonflame or both on every single team, and I was like, nah, this definitely is not going to work, so I switched for Thievul in the lead, which got a mid-season move update with Sucker Punch, and is actually a really strong Pokemon in neutral situations. Obviously the team still has his weaknesses, is quite weak to fighting, although I didn't see too many fighting types, and as a result I was able to go positive with the team. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which XL Pokemon that got a moveset buff this season that you've not yet seen featured on YouTube would you like to see me showcase on the channel? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battling Thievul into Morpeko, so not ideal for me. I'm actually just going to say swap straight away into the Shadow Mamoswine, and the opponent responds with a Talonflame. Certainly not ideal for me, but I am able to reach an Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear is going to grab a shield from the opponent, but they can fully incinerate farm me down. At this point, I kind of have to come in with the Thievul, and I kind of have to just no-shield. If the opponent full sends a Brave Bird, I'm probably going to lose this game, but I'm going to no-shield the first move, and the opponent does just go for a fly, which means I can now reach a Night Slash. Night Slash won't quite get the KO from this range, but it gets the Talonflame fairly low to the point where Smoochum can come in and go for a Powder Snow farm down. Fly gets the KO there. We come in with the Smoocher. We get 4 Powder Snows, which is the maximum amount of Powder Snows I can deal without taking 2 Incinerates worth of damage. So actually pretty ideal for me. They're going to come back in with more Morpeko. They bait with a Psychic Fangs there. Not great for me, but still I can go for an Ice Punch at this point. Ice Punch is going to be shielded by the Morpeko. So at this point I'm going to try and shield twice and then go for a full Powder Snow farm down, hoping something in the back is weak to the Smoochum. So committing to the farm down, we get that farm down, and it's gonna be a Quagsire in the back, not weak to Psychic or Ice, but Psyshock does so much damage, and we're able to reach a second Psyshock here. Psyshock gets the KO up against the Shadow Quagsire, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. See a Jumpluff in the lead, of course. I've got double ice in the back, so I say swap into Shadow Mamoswine, and the opponent instantly responds with a Blastoise. But this is fine with me. I'm on Mud Slap. I'm going to go for an Icicle Spear bait here, and the opponent is going to use a shield. I'm realizing these Mud Slaps are seriously chunking, so by the time I reach a second Icicle Spear, it probably will be enough damage to get the KO, and it definitely will KO from this range. So, I'm going to fire off the Icicle Spear on CMP, winning CMP, and grabbing the final shield. At this point, the opponent is fighting hard for switch advantage, so I'm just going to double shield as well, go for the Mud Slap farm down, get that farm down, and the opponent's going to reveal their final Pokemon to be a Quagsire once again, and we're going straight for high horsepower here. This is going to absolutely one-shot the Shadow Quagsire. They come back in with a Jumpluff. They can outpace me to a charge move here. Smoochum is a very glassy Pokemon. Acrobatics nearly gets the one-shot, but it doesn't quite take us out there, and of course, Ice Punch, double super effective. It gets the KO up against the Jumpluff, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Talonflame in the lead this time around. Much better to see it here, and this is where Thievul actually fairly decent in these neutral situations. In the 2-shield scenario, this is a very comfortable matchup for me. In the 1-shield scenario, I think unless I get a boost, I will just narrowly lose this, but I don't really mind that too much here. You can see already at a second Night Sash. Night Sash probably not going to be shielded this time around, and the opponent will let that go through, and unfortunately just barely not able to get the Sucker Punch farm down, but that's absolutely okay. Hoping this is the worst answer to the backline that I've got here. So we're going to come in with the Mamoswine, and the opponent comes in with a Florges. Now, of course, they could be having Trailblaze, probably will be running Trailblaze, so I'm able to grab the final shield from the opponent. And this one, I'm actually just going to let the Shadow Mamoswine go down, hoping Smoochum can sweep in the end game. So the opponent boosts up their attack. They are able to outpace me just slightly to that next charge view. So at this point, going to shield up the Disarming Voice. I'm now going to overfarm. I don't actually farm up and throw it on CMP, even though I would win CMP. I don't want them to just randomly catch a charge view. So instead, we go for the side shot. 1 before, and it's great because they've got a Pokemon that resists Ice Shock but takes super effective damage from the Ice Punches, and because I overfarm so much, I'm able to reach a second Ice Punch, throwing on CMP. Ice Punch takes out the Claydol, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. We see Thievul into a Malamar. So, of course, this is a fairly neutral matchup here. They're going to have Superpower, which is going to hit for super effective damage. We've got Play Rough, however, I'm actually just going to settle for a Night Slash. I'm going to shield this up as the opponent does go for a Foul Play bait, which is not ideal for me, but not the worst thing ever. We're now going to fire off the Night Slash. Night Slash gets the boost, and that is huge for me. This might actually mean Night Slash number 2 gets the KO. And Night Slash does take out the Malamar. They come in with a Shadow Drapion. And at this point, I'm now going to commit to the Play Rough, but I realize these Sucker Punches are doing so much damage. They're resisted. But look, we've already got them into the yellow health range. I definitely could have just settled for a Night Slash there. But either way, the opponent fires off the Aqua Tail. They're going to have to fire another Aqua Tail to get the KO, but they have farmed up quite a lot of energy. So Aqua Tail gets the KO there. We can come in with the Shadow Mamoswine, but unfortunately, they will reach another Aqua Tail. So going to use my final shield. They actually go for Crunch there, looking maybe to debuff my defense. Doesn't really matter. Shadow Mamoswine has pretty much no defense whatsoever, especially with the IVs that I've got. I don't know why I built this one, but either way, we go for Side Shock. Side Shock does big damage. The opponent fires off a charge. We smooch him. Not the tankiest Pokemon, but we're able to just barely hang on. The opponent throws at the last possible second here, and it's going to be a race. I don't think they're in range where a double resisted Icicle Spear gets the KO, but it turns out they actually were. Icicle Spear does about, I can't remember exactly, like, I don't know, 20 damage or something like that. But either way, it probably would have got the KO up against the Lapras. No, about 30 damage. But either way, it doesn't really matter. We end up losing because I committed to the high horsepower. And yeah, they do outpace me to the next charge. But anyways, into the next battle. GG's to opponent, by the way. We're going to see a Dugong and we get the boost again, which is really nice, of course. They're just going to go and debuff me. But we are still 1 stage boosted in our attack. I'm going to throw on good timing, throwing after 4 Sucker Punches. Night Slash doesn't quite get the KO, but randomly the game freezes, and I don't really know why, but I've had this happen a few times recently where the game has just completely stopped. It's not like stuttering or anything like that. It literally just completely freezes, and as a result, they're able to reach another charge move. I lose Switch Advantage, and Switch Advantage, as you can see, up against a Morpeko, probably would have been quite good for me, but we swap into Mamoswine, and Mamoswine core breaking their backline as they've got a Shadow Jump Off in the back. We've got a shield advantage. I go for Icicle Spear, grab the final shield from the opponent, and at this point, I'm going to shield up this first charge move here. They do just go for an Aerial Ace, so that's okay. I can now overfarm Aerial Ace. You're going to see, actually does way more damage than I was expecting. Aerial Ace gets me incredibly low, so I'm forced to go straight for the Icicle Spear here. Icicle Spear is going to get the one shot. We swap back into Smoochum. I'm basically trying to put them into range where a single Mudslap will get the KO. I'm going to shield the first charge move here, force the opponent to pretty much just throw straight away, and they do exactly that. Now, of course, they're boosted. Aura Will easily gets the KO, but we have successfully put them into range where one Mudslap gets that farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle to see Thievul into a Goodra. So, this is a neutral-ish matchup. Of course, I could go for Play Rough and probably get the one shot here, but we are going to see how this plays out. I'm going to no-shield the first charge move as the opponent is going to go straight for an Aqua Tail there. I'm now going to farm up to the Play Rough, bait with a Night Slash, which isn't the worst thing ever. Night Slash grabs the shield anyway, so definitely glad I did just bait there. We're now going to come in with the Shadow Mamoswine. The opponent fires off a charge move, going for the Aqua Tail, and then swapping into a Shadow for Alligator. Now, because of that energy advantage, I'm able to reach a high horsepower. The opponent does not respect the damage. It does huge damage, but they come in with Shadow Typhlosion, and a single Incinerate from that range gets the KO there. That is absolutely huge for the opponent, because if it didn't quite take me out there, of course, I would have got off 3 Mudslaps, but as a result, I come in with the Smoochum. I thought maybe they're trying CMP time me there. Does not work out, and as a result, this is just game over. Thievul comes in. Night Slash still doesn't get the KO. We eventually get the Sucker Punch farm down, but a single Dragon Breath takes out the Thievul, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on their into next match, see another Talonflame in the lead. So once again, going to stay in this matchup. The opponent then safe swaps into Credilli, and Credilli's a bit of an awkward one. Of course, I've got Double Ice, which is going to hit for super effective damage, but also takes super effective damage from the Rock Tomb. So I'm actually going to swap and catch it onto Mamoswine. Of course, Rock is neutral here. You wouldn't know that, though, based on the damage. That is insane damage. At this point, forced to throw straight away. I didn't even know if I would live another Bullet Seed, and the opponent does actually let Credilli go down. So at this point, I'm going to see the opponent come back in with a Talonflame. Of course, they've now got the energy for a charge attack, but that's okay. Thievul did leave with some energy, so I'm going to come in. I'm going to shield this first charge move here, as the opponent does go straight for a Flame Charge. We're now going to go for 2 Sucker Punches, fire off the Night Slash here. Night Slash is going to be shielded by their Talonflame, and again, we get the boost, which is very lovely. Going to go for another Night Slash here. Night Slash definitely gets the KO from that range with that boost, so the opponent used their final shield. At this point, I'm also going to shield, hoping we can Sucker Punch, farm them down, and we're able to do exactly that. The opponent comes in with their own Sucker Punch user in a Furret, but I can go straight for Play Rough here. Play Rough does big damage. I'm actually staying in, forcing the opponent to go for that farm down, and at this point, no one charge move should be taking out the Smoochum. Powder Snow will register, it gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into next battle, see a Feraligatr in the lead. So this is a fairly decent matchup for me. I think in the zero shield scenario, they will win just because they win CMP, but otherwise it is a positive matchup for the Thievul. So let the first move go through here. I could go for Play Rough, but I still don't think that will quite take them out there. So I go for the Night Slash, and they do actually no shield. So at this point, I'm not going to bother throwing. I won't win CMP. So instead, we're going to shield up the Hydro Cannon, commit to the farm down, but the opponent comes in with a Shadow Annihilate, and now this is really awkward. I need the Play Rough to land, and it does not. And at this point, things aren't looking very good for me. I can come in with the Smoochum, but you're going to see the opponent's actually very smart play here. Going to shield up the charge move, and now they can just commit to a full counter farm down. And we go down just before we reach another charge. I have to call a bait here, but the opponent full sends the close combat, easily one-shotting the Shadow Mamoswine, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's top on there, into the next battle, we see Claydol in the lead, a great Pokemon to see as the entire team does well. They then say swap into Pidgeot, and you might be wondering, why aren't I just swapping into my Smoochum? Well, the thing is, if they're on Feather Dance and they debuff my attack, I think they might actually flip Switch advantage there. Not that I necessarily need it up against the Claydol, but either way, I'm actually going to stay in, just force the opponent to go for a Brave Bird here, and the opponent does actually just full send the Brave Bird, but now I can come in with the Smoochum, get that Powder Snow farm down, and the opponent comes back in with their Claydol, so fine with me. I'm going to go straight for Ice Punch here. Are they triple weak to Ice? Ice Punch grabs the final shield from the opponent. They can actually just barely outpace me to the next charge attack, and at this point, since I'm debuffed, I don't think an Ice Punch will KO, so I swap into Mamoswine, and there it is, a third Pokemon weak to the Ice typing. Of course, Credilli can fight back with that Rock Tomb, same as Claydol actually, but either way, I'm just going to farm up, throw just before the opponent reaches the next charge move. Icicle Spear gets the KO, and I can just fire another Icicle Spear into the Claydol coming back in. I am debuffed, but Icicle Spear still gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle, see Thievul into a Shadow Drapion. So, not the best matchup for me, but actually not that bad either. I should actually get a shield advantage in this matchup if the opponent does want to shield a Play Rough. Otherwise, I can probably shield myself and then go for a full farm down. So, we farm up to the Play Rough, we throw on CMP. Play Rough is going to be shielded by the Shadow Drapion. And at this point, I'm happy to let the Thievul go down. But Aquatail doesn't quite get the KO. So, instead of just giving them extra farm, I swap into my Smoochum, which you might be thinking, well, why don't you swap into the Mamoswine, go for the Mudslap farm down? Well, actually, if I get ahead on energy, Smoochum can be very dangerous in a lot of situations. We're going to go for the Side Shock here. Side Shock, as you can see, just does just under half their health, which is actually pretty respectable here. Side Shock number 2 gets them incredibly low. The opponent does overfarm just slightly, but not enough to the point where they're going to reach a move up against my Mamoswine. So we come in straight away, Mud Slaps, farm them down there, but they've got Galissapod in the back. Unfortunately, they do completely wall me, but Shadow Mamoswine hits like a truck. So at this point, I'm going to shield the Aqua Jet there. Honestly, I didn't realize just how attack weighted this Shadow Mamoswine was, so I go for the high horsepower thinking I needed that to land. But actually, with a successful catch here, you're going to see even the Mud Slap damage resisted has already got them into the half health range. I definitely could have just gone for Icicle Spears. What am I doing? I expected a catch, which is why I didn't throw there, and as a result, I go down as I reach the high horsepower. So pretty awkward gameplay on my end, but GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, great lead for us. Even better save swap as they swap into a Shadow Galarian Weezing. I'm going to shield this, respect the overheat. They do just bait with a Sludge, but they don't reach the overheat anyway, so absolutely fine with me. Sorry, I just hit the mic there. Hopefully that doesn't sound too loud. But either way, they come back in with the Shadow Sabler. I'm absolutely loaded. We go straight for Icicle Spear, grab the shield, and now I'm full sending high horsepower. We throw on CMP. High horsepower is not respected. It gets the KO. They come in with their own Shadow Mud Slapper. We're going to swap into our Smoochum. I am behind on energy, so they will actually outpace me to back-to-back charge moves. And as I've already mentioned, Smoochum definitely not very bulky, so a Bone Club will actually get the KO in this matchup. So we will go down here, but it doesn't really matter. Look at the Powder Snow damage. We've got them into the yellow health range, deep into the yellow health range. We can come in with the Thievul. I could throw, but instead I commit to the Sucker Punch farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. We see Clodsire in the lead. So, we're going to swap into our Shadow Mamoswine here. And the opponent is going to respond with an Astonish Dunsparce, which is very interesting. Kind of surprising that you don't see it more often, just because Astonish is still a very good fast move. Of course, the rollout is going to generate energy faster. But Astonish is actually very good coverage up against maybe an Annihilate, expecting to just completely wall the Dunsparce, and actually just getting hit for super effective damage might throw them off. But either way, they come in with a Shadow for Alligator and full sending high horsepower, but unfortunately this time it is shielded and they can fully Shadow Claw farm me down. So at this point the opponent banks some energy. I'm going to stay in with my Thievel, wait for the opponent to eventually throw what I assume to be an Earthquake, and then I will eventually swap into my Smoochum. So here I bank the energy, we come in with the Smoochum. They will just barely outpace me as they did over farm, but that's okay. Stone Edge grabs my final shield. I'm now going to farm up to back-to-back charge moves because I believe the Shadow for Alligator user probably thinks they're going to win CMP in this matchup. So Psyshock gets the KO, and they do throw straight away, losing CMP. Psyshock grabs the final shield up against the Shadow for Alligator, and I can't remember how much energy they did bank, but either way, Hydro Cannon gets the KO. We come back in with the Thievel. We're committing to the Play Rough, and from this range, Play Rough takes out Shadow for Alligator, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. See Azumarill in the lead. This is very tricky for me to deal with. I'm going to say swap into Smoochum, and they actually come in with a Swalot, which is a positive matchup for me. However, you can see the IVs on my Smoochum aren't really that great for a level 50 Pokemon. 12, 13, 13. It is a lucky Pokemon, which is why I did power it up. However, unfortunately, just not that attack weighted. If it was 15, I probably could have Powder Snow farmed them down at this point, but because it's not, I'm actually going to have to double shield in this matchup. I don't trust Smoochum to live a sludge there, even up against a bulky Pokemon like Swalot. So now they come back in with the Azumarill. We fire off the Psyshock. Psyshock does respectable damage, and I am able to reach another Psyshock before Azumarill throws a charge attack. At this point, Psyshock does get the Azu fairly low, and they are forced to throw. Otherwise, they're going to tank another charge move. So Ice Beam gets the KO there. I'm going to wait out Switch come in with the Shadow Mamoswine, and I'm going to swap, catch the charge attack onto my Thievel, as this should just be another Ice Beam. Ice Beam, they actually undercharged that fully. Very smart play, because now they can come in with the Annihilate. I don't even reach the Play Rough there, although looking at the HP, should have just committed to a Night Slash anyways, but it doesn't matter. Even a Rage Fist gets the KO up against the Shadow Mamoswine, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG Turbo there into next battle, another Shadow Drapion in the lead. So once again, just going to no shield as they go straight for an Aqua Tail. Absolutely fine with me. And now I can commit to the Play Rough. And Play Rough, we're going to win CMP once again. Play Rough probably does grab a shield in this situation, and it does exactly that. So again, going to no shield here. I then will swap into my Smoochum. And let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to stay in with the Drapion. This time, I'm actually going to fire off the Ice Punch straight away here. Force the opponent either to double shield or just let the Drapion go down, and they let it go down. They now come in with a Azumarill, and despite the fact that we are, of course, hitting for resisted fast move pressure with the Powder Snows, we're so spammy. These Psyshocks actually do quite a lot of damage up against Azumarill. So we're going to fire off another Psyshock. Psyshock number 2 is going to get the Azu deep into the red health range, and they farmed up to 100 energy, so I realized they had to throw there. So I swap, I catch the Ice Beam onto my Thievel. Now we're going to come in with the Shadow Mamoswine. They will unfortunately reach another Ice Beam before I fully Mud Slap farm them down, but that's okay. I'm happy to use the shield here and find out what their final Pokemon is going to be, and the opponent's going to have a Serperior in the back. So of course, running Mud Slap as the fast move, it is resisted damage. We're taking super effective damage from these Vine Whips, but I will reach back-to-back charge moves. So what I'm going to do is back the energy, swap into my Smoochum just in case Ice Cold Spear didn't get the KO, but it turns out it probably would have done, as Ice Punch also does get the KO from that range, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see a Shadow Primeape in the lead. So, of course, not really ideal for me. I'm going to swap into my Mamoswine because I can at least hit for neutral damage with these Mud Slaps and seriously chunking, but they boost their attack straight away. I'm going straight for the Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear is going to be shielded by the opponent, and they can Karate Chop farm me down. But at this point, unless they go for the extra Karate Chop here, they only have the energy for a Rage Fist, and they do throw blindly, maybe expecting something else to come in. So Rage Fist, gonna be resisted. We don't take too much damage there, but the opponent comes in with Azumarill, and this is definitely very tricky for me. At this point, I'm going to fully commit to the Play Rough. It's not going to do too much damage here, and Sucker Punches, they are resisted. It's not really adding up that much. I do get them into the yellow health range, so it kind of just depends what they've got in the back. Ice Beam gets the KO from that range. We come in with the Smoochum. I don't mind shielding this charge move and then just massively over-farming here. Play Rough is going to grab my final shield. I can now farm up to just under 100 energy, fire off the Psyshock. Psyshock, gonna be no shielded, but it actually gets the KO there. I probably would have preferred if it didn't quite take them out and I got more energy, but they come in with their final Pokemon, a Clodsire, and despite the fact that I can hit for super effective damage, Clodsire, a very bulky Pokemon, they're able to use their final shield. We win CMP, but it's just not enough for me as the opponent fires off the Stone Edge, taking out the Smoochum, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's to opponent into the next battle, I believe the final battle of this video, leading into Lapras. The opponent's going to say swap into a Shadow Drapion, and these Mudslaps are seriously chunking right now. They fire off the Crunch there, which means I can actually just commit to a full Mudslap farm down, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent is going to wait out their switch shot and then come in with a Jumpluff, which is a very interesting decision. Don't really understand that at all. Icicle Spear is going to grab a shield. I can fire off the next one straight away, maybe thinking the opponent would go for an Aerial Ace, but either way, doesn't really matter. I've grabbed all shields from the opponent. They will overfarm, but I just don't really care at this point. I'm going to let the Mamoswine go down. Aerial Ace does get the KO. We can come in with the Smoochum, and I'm definitely just going to shield. Respect the damage, assuming the opponent probably going to swap back into Lapras. They do exactly that, so I bank a charge move before swapping out. We come in with the Thievul. I can go straight for Night Slash. Night Slash, of course, not going to do too much damage, and the opponent does farm up to a potential Skull Bash here, but Thievul does have a bit of bulk. They're not going to be able to fast move farm me down, and they've actually boosted up their defense there, so another Night Slash will not get the KO. However, it doesn't really matter. I'm able to reach another Night Slash before they throw a charge move. Of course, Night Slash will be taking out the Lapras. I can swap back into the Smoochum, go straight for an Ice Punch. It's double super effective. It easily gets the one shot up against the Jumpluff, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.